Thank you. Hi everybody. Welcome to our final presentation for futurePREP'd. We're so grateful that you're here and that Padnos has allowed us the opportunity to solve one of these real-world problems. Our team consists of Athena Torres, who goes to Coopersville High School, Grace Langland, and Nathan Walters, who both go to Hamilton High School. Myself, Ellie Rizk, I go to Holland Christian, and Chloe Rooks, who goes to West Ottawa. I'll now hand it off to Athena, who's going to introduce you to our driving question.
First, thank you, Ellie. First, I want to take the time to thank all of you for being here today. We're very grateful to have you in our presence. Our team was handed a very crucial topic that corresponds to our modern world of biased mindsets and the lack of inclusion, and that is, how can Padnos become a more inclusive for underrepresented team members, specifically for BIPOC, which stands for Black, Indigenous, People of Color, LGBTQ+, and women. I will now be passing it to Grace to talk more about Padnos and their values. Thank you.
Thank you, Athena. So Padnos has 5 core values that their company is driven by. They are to see the possible, to always be crushing it, to just be good people, to be a force clients can't live without, and that you don't need a desk to be a leader. Padnos strives to be an equal opportunity employer. This driving question is very important to them because at the moment, they have a rather homogeneous work team that just doesn't match up with the local demographics. They want to improve in this area and to find new ways to become a better, inclusive employer. Our group has gone through lots of thorough preparation. We started out by researching about Padnos to learn their goals and their values. We then did some empathy building to help gain an open mindset as we looked for our solution. Aside from research about Padnos, we also did research about diversity and different things surrounding inclusion. We created stakeholder maps in order to figure out how our solution would end up impacting the people around us. We also researched other entities to see what they were already doing to promote diversity and inclusion. After all of that research, our team tried to come up with at least 100 different ideas for solutions. We then picked out our best ones and put them through the NUF test. The NUF test looks at how new, how useful, and how feasible a solution is. After the NUF test, we looked at the solutions that best fit those 3 categories and chose them as our final solutions. And we started putting together our presentation. The last thing we did was gain feedback from other groups by pitching them our presentation. Now Athena is going to share with you a little bit about her own personal experience.
Thank you, Grace. My perspective is one in a billion of the many people who suffer through discrimination and biased mindsets. But what's discrimination to me? Discrimination to me is having a closed mind. It's being prejudiced against any human being you know nothing about. It's always about what you are, but never about who you are. But the most important aspect is that discrimination is the removal of inclusion to any human being. I personally never knew what discrimination was until I experienced it. I remember feeling excluded, different, and envious. I wanted what I couldn't have, and that was being someone I wasn't. Although being a Hispanic born American with all my rights, I was still called quote unquote slave, immigrant, and even people taunting me if I needed a green card. But what hurt most was explaining to my quote unquote white friends how I felt and them not understanding. If only they understood that I wasn't born into a privileged world where being discriminated against wasn't a worry for me. I wish everyone could understand that we don't choose our differences, and if they could just accept that we were like everyone else, the world would honestly be a better place. Judging a person does not define who they are, but it does define who you are. Thank you. Now I'll be passing on to Grace to talk about activities to promote diversity and inclusion.
Thank you so much for sharing, Athena. So our first solution was to incorporate activities to promote diversity and inclusion into Padnos. These are things like different exercises and discussion prompts that can be used during events such as diversity trainings. They are meant to promote awareness and to create understanding. They will help to unify Padnos and all of Padnos's employees. These engaging activities can help people who might not have felt discrimination before know just a little bit about what it feels like. And another positive is that it can help to educate people without them feeling attacked and that having them get defensive and having them shut off their minds. These activities are very easy to execute, but are also very, very informative. And they're also fun for the participants. Now, Nate is going to share with you some of our activity ideas.
Thank you, Grace. There are many ways for coworkers to learn about diversity and inclusion at work, and activities, games, and discussions are a great way to do that. We believe at the beginning of every meeting and group event that these things should be used to help change the status quo and promote diversity. Discussions are one important way to increase coworker unity and engagement, and can teach a great lesson on unity, diversity, and inclusion. Examples of discussion prompts are sharing a situation where you are in the minority, describing a time you experienced someone have an unjust view on you, and sharing a time where you had an unpopular idea. These discussions and others will help people understand what it feels to be in the minority, even if they aren't, because it can give them an idea of how it feels to experience discrimination. Along with discussions, activities can be a fun and engaging way to teach inclusion and diversity. Activities can include share a story, nod for no, blue eyes, brown eyes, two truths and a lie, and many others. Right now, I want you guys to try one of these games, a nod for no. I'm going to ask 6 yes or no questions, and for the first 3 questions, I want you to shake your heads up and down for yes, and left and right for no. For the next 3 questions, I want you to do the reverse by nodding for no and shaking your head left and right for yes. All right, let's begin. The first question is, do you like to go hiking? The second, did you see the moon last night? And third, can a pig walk on 2 feet? Now for the next 3 questions, nod for no and shake your head up and down for shake your head left and right for yes. Can you see out of the back of your head? Next, can you bowl? And finally, do you like to go fishing? This activity challenges your brain's initial response to an answer and makes you think more about how you really feel and what you know. Activities like these can really help challenge our implicit biases, which are our mind's initial response based on prior environmental conditionings, or in other words, the way our environment has reinforced ideas into our mind over time, and are a real problem in the world of promoting inclusion. Now I'll pass it on to Chloe.
We also decided to scroll through Padnos' social media in order to see if any of the photos there promoted diversity. What we found was that majority of the photos were advertising the business, like the photos on the right, and didn't show any people. The photos that did have diversity, or did have people, like the photos on the right, not at all, were photos of mostly white males. Now I'll turn it over to Ellie, who will dive a little deeper into the social media of Padnos.
Thank you, Chloe. So throughout our empathy building and creative process, we determined about 3 categories of discrimination within the workplace. The first one is career discrimination, so that refers to different promotions and forgiveness of mistakes being affected by internal biases, depending on if they're reinforced or just whoever's implementing those. The financial discrimination refers to the wage disparity for similar positions throughout different groups. And lastly, social discrimination refers to different levels of inclusivity in the workplace. They're all important, they're all relevant, and affect different underrepresented groups in different ways. But we decided to focus on social for this specific solution. So here's a graph or a table of the website and social media statistics and representation in Padnos media from March 2017 through this past March. As you can see in the initial column, it's pretty equal, where it's about 45% white women, 29% white men, 19% BIPOC women, and 6% BIPOC men. But as soon as you remove any sort of outreach, so that would be programs like Women in Welding, Teens in Welding, donations to Kids Food Basket, any of those photos posted on the website, it immediately becomes a little bit more skewed. So that's more than 75% white men on the Padnos website and social media actually working, and less than 25% white women, and there were no BIPOC representation for the Facebook and social media of Padnos for people actually working, or photos of people actually working in the workplace. We think that increasing the diversity across the board for Padnos could be a great thing. It would encourage more prospective applicants to look into a job in Padnos and potentially even allow people to feel more comfortable in that field who aren't represented in the field currently.
Thank you, Ellie. In summary, we feel that a two-part solution will address the driving question. The first part of our solution would be to modify the social media and website to reflect a more diverse workforce, as we know that representation matters. The second part of our solution would be to include intentional one-on-one or small group discussions and engaging activities that combat implicit bias and promote an inclusive work environment. But thank you again for giving us this opportunity to solve this very important subject that will not just impact the company, Padnos itself, but have a small but important impact in the world. At this point in time, if you have any questions, please unmute and feel free to ask.